If we can become a plant-based nation, we could get off all our medication. We want to keep doing things like we were, donating to organizations claiming to fight for a cure, but the cure is already in front of our eyes, and it's time for us to wake up and realize. We may not want to believe we have control. It's easier for most of us to metaphorically live in a hole. So many stories of how being plant-based has reversed disease. It's funny that we can't stop eating meat with ease. We want to continue to look for the answer, yet people have reversed even cancer. I think finally as a nation, it's time to give people the truthful information. Your hard-earned money is what you pay to take your medicine day after day. Sadly, there's a lot of money being made in people staying sick. This has to finally make something click. We have to have this revelation that a cure means not selling medication. There's so many myths and misconceptions, but it's eye-opening once you make the connections. That meat and dairy are causing insulin resistance. It's not sugar and carbs causing diabetes, for instance. Scientifically, our bodies are not set up like carnivores. We model those who eat plants. If you can heal, why not give it a chance? You follow your car's owner's manual for what gas it takes, yet for our bodies without care, we feed it steaks. That's like giving an unleaded car diesel to drink. Our bodies will reject it, don't you think? I'm not here to tell you what to do, but to be a voice, that when it comes to your health, you have the choice. With just a few adjustments to your diet, I can help if you just want to try it. I've found testimonials that people have reversed every ailment and disease by simply eliminating meat, eggs, milk, and cheese. There's a tasty substitute for all the things you already eat. You can get all your nutrients without eating meat. Save the animals, the environment, and yourself just by making a few different selections off the grocery store shelf. It's never too late. I've seen it work at all age ranges. It's my passion, and I can't wait to hear about your positive health changes. It's time for the world to wake up and heal, and you can start with your very next meal. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Meatless Monday. Here we are. I hope everybody's still hanging in. I'm so sorry that we were running just a little bit behind schedule. How's everyone this evening? I got my co-host here, JJPO.
What's up? What's up?
How we doing?
I am doing fine. How are you doing today, baby?
I'm doing really good. Just happy to see everybody here. Did I hear that we had Janetta here and
Janetta and
Ariel?
Ariella, welcome, ladies.
I'm telling you, my old friends, thank you for joining in. I can't wait to discuss tonight's Meatless Monday. We're going to be talking about how we can prevent and reverse disease through a plant-based diet. And I am a member of a page that I wanted to feature here, who puts out a lot of really, really good information. I'm not sure if Stephanie will be popping in with us tonight, but last week we had some sound issues. So we had spoken with her yesterday, and she is such a excellent person, and gave us a lot of good advice, like about eating, earlier in the day. And she was explaining to us what her and her husband eat in their plant-based, journey. And what she has is a page that's called preventing and reversing, or sorry, reversing disease with a plant-based diet. And it's really good if you get a chance to visit it on Facebook. It is at the, like, well, actually, if you just go in the Facebook search engine, you can start typing in reversing disease through a healthy plant-based diet. Her and her
Awesome.
brother.
And Jen, she is in the backstage. So yep.
Okay, great.
Cool. I'm gonna let her in.
Hi,
Hey,
ladies.
Stephanie.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Welcome. Oh, look,
Great.
I was sitting there. I
Thank
didn't even
you.
turn my mic on, but I see yours is on, so I'm going to turn it on. I feel like this thing needs help behind me, but it's supposed to look like a green background to like match the thing, but I was trying to rush because I was running late from work, and it's kind of like I'm seeing it's the
So you're
leaning
trying to create a
background.
green screen?
I'm
Yeah,
a
it
work in
is
progress.
a green screen, but she's a novice, so yeah.
As am I with everything.
I don't have anything on the green screen, right? I'm like, I know what that's used for, but then I was like, oh wait, is the room messy behind me? Let me just put the green screen up so I can hide my throwing my towel everywhere and stuff.
I
But I'm
understand.
so happy you're here joining us. I was just going on about your page, so now that you're here, you can tell us about what your journey is, and why you're so passionate about plants. And welcome everyone to the stream. We've got a couple of people here, so if you have questions, please chime in.
Thank you for having me. And
You're welcome.
yeah, that page was started by my brother, and I help out as an administrator. I do a lot of the research for him. And we're just really passionate about the idea that what we were told as a society as to what to eat and how to eat isn't really the truth about how we should be eating as humans, and that um, eating a diet that is more live energy, live food is what resonates with our bodies. And unfortunately, we have taken the food supply system and we've moved it towards more processed foods to make things convenient for ourselves. But in the process of doing that, we've taken away all of the nutritional value, and we've forgotten why we even consume foods. So as a species, we just think about the taste, but we
Mhm.
don't think about what happens to it after we swallow it.
Yes.
And that's where the bulk of our problems lie in 2023. If you were to look at all of the majority of diseases that we face, especially as a country that has supposedly the best medical system at our availability, the highest education possible, and yet we're so sickly as a populace. And unfortunately, because we've tied our food supply system as an economics model, as well as our medical system as an economic model, the truth isn't always being told to all of us about what is the best way to maintain health and
I
to
agree.
keep that health going. And the the whole thing started back in the 50s when the meat and dairy industry made it a campaign to put posters in the school system that drinking milk and eating meat is healthy. And there was no science behind it. It was just their advertising. And then what ended up happening is the government took that advertising campaign and made that a national theme without any real science behind that. And then they systematically created kind of pseudoscience to keep an industry buoyed in this country that we have adopted as an economic model of providing nourishment. And we even made it where government surplus purchases extra things from farmers around the country and stores it up. And so they promote it. And so the information over the past 70 years of milk is good for us and meat is good for us has been lost in the science that has been proven probably 25, 30 years ago now that the reverse is true, and that meat and dairy really don't do a body good. And that the bottom line is that we as animals create our own cholesterol. Mm-hmm. And when you are ingesting extra cholesterol, all that is doing is gunking up the works in our system. And the idea that we look at any kind of other machinery that we would produce, and we understand that in order for machines to run efficiently, you put the right liquids in, you put the right, what you put in is how well that machine will work. We don't apply that to our bodies. We don't look at our body as a machine at all. We just look at it as, I don't know how we look at it. We look at it without looking at it, right? So we don't take the idea of, if you do anything with oil, if you fry any kind of food, you're never supposed to put it down your drain. And no one ever questions, well, if it clogs your drain, isn't that going to clog the inside of my machine? If that machine gets clogged to the point where it can't function anymore, and now that pipe is going to back up because it's so clogged, isn't that what's going on inside of us? If that same stuff will clog that pipe, it's doing it to us as well. And so we've disconnected to what we're putting into our body is what's creating this imbalance. And that imbalance is then manifesting in everything from cancer to diabetes to heart disease, strokes, gout, things that are extra protein. It shows up in our gallbladder and liver problems, and the entire system breaks down. Yeah. And yet we still refuse to look at, well, what are we putting in that's breaking down the system? So what we do is we break the system, and then we go to a doctor who doesn't ask, well, what are you eating? All he's doing is looking at, oh, you're broken, and what can I do to fix it? So we can't even really blame him because he just wants to make you feel better. But unfortunately, he's also undereducated and hasn't learned that whole process about looking at what happens after you swallow, because it's not really mandated in medical schools, even up to 2023 in this country. Education for doctors in studying nutrition as a real science is not promoted anywhere. Yeah, so they're almost as uneducated as we are. So we can't look to them for the advice. And most people are just busy living life and not thinking, oh, I need to go research what I'm eating. Yeah. Why wouldn't I believe what's being told to me on TV and the commercials of this is delicious, go and eat here. And, and so we make it where we don't really consider what we're eating. And the only time we ever consider what we're eating is when we're looking at it for our pets. We take that whole idea of nutrition being very important for their coat and their energy and how long they're going to live, and that they're going to feel wonderful every day, and we're going to avoid arthritis as they get older, and all of that. We do that with our pets. But for some reason, that disconnect ends when it comes to our children and ourselves. And so we started that group with the idea that I'm not an expert and my brother's not an expert, but I know how to look things up, and I know how to read books from the experts, and I know how to go and find the links of their information. And so we look at that page as more of like a repository of just information that I'm just constantly looking for and seeking, and then I post it. And there's so many reputable plant-based doctors now that it's not even hard to find all this research. And then, of course, there's the NIH and the government, that a lot of the stuff they are agreeing with. It's just that
Yeah.
it's not plastered all over the front pages and it's not discussed in media. But the government is on board with a lot of the plant-based findings that this is a diet that we should be eating. And so I think people like the two of you really finding passion and wanting to educate and hold these shows every week and inviting guests on from all walks of life and inviting people to call in and or to send in a message of questions. This is where it's the most important.
Yeah.
We're making the impact, and we're not the only ones doing it. It's a worldwide movement. I'm always amazed that I'm on another site that I admin for. It's a vegan site, and how many people around the world are waking up together that this is something that's not just for us. It's also to help the planet. It's no longer a model that's working for us as humans to think that we can take pure plant protein. The book back in the 60s, Diet for a Small Planet, came out, or 70s, and they pointed out that we take 15 pounds of pure protein and we're feeding it to the animal and we're only getting back 1 pound. So we're losing 14 pounds right there.
Right.
To think about the fact that there's any hunger on this planet and that we're not addressing the fact that we can grow enough food to feed these animals and we're not getting it back. If we just even stop that model, think of the plethora of food that we're growing that we could just feed ourselves instead of feeding that middleman, right? So
exactly,
it not only doesn't make sense for us physically to consume them, but it doesn't make sense for us even as an economic model to be doing what we're doing on the scale that we're doing it. So I don't know if I've gone in all these different directions. You want to rein me in, or you want to just
have covered exactly what, like I was saying last night when you said that, like I literally feel misled for the first 42 years of my life, and it wasn't that people were misleading me. It's literally that the people, our families and our doctors, they were not educated to know. We were told you have to have meat for protein, you have to have you have to have some vegetables on your plate, but you got to have that meat on your plate too. We were told that you got to have milk, like you said. We touched on this in a separate conversation we had, the three of us, but Dr. Milton Mills is like one of my favorite plant-based doctors, and even he said milk does a body good is not science, it's marketing. And
exactly.
it definitely, like you said, for me, on so many different levels now. It started as health, which I'm still most passionate about, which is how I came across your page, because I found it so interesting. Because I'm always looking for, people to talk about how to reverse disease, and how to more make that point that you can reverse disease, you can prevent disease. And I found a lot of helpful information on there that you share. So
awesome.
the cool thing was that for me, the health thing makes so much sense. And we can talk about this later on, like you were saying about clogging the arteries. It's the entire epidemic of type 2 diabetes is made to look like it's sugar that causes it, but as like the poem said, it's actually insulin resistance based on the animal based, dairy based diet, standard American diet. And it's so, then we got the environmental reasons, and then there's the animal rights reasons. So it's like
Exactly.
all those three things. And I know that we focus mostly on the health aspect, but once I got deeper into it, like you said, there's just, it's like once you start looking up the information, you almost get like you have to seek and find more. And that's what I think happens to everybody. You kind of evolve. You go in this plant-based, you get a couple of videos, and then all of a sudden you're in this whole world that you had no idea was out there, and all these products that you didn't even know existed, really. Like I love that photo you shared on the page today that said, when vegans say, or when people say, I don't know about going plant-based, something like that. What do we eat? And it's got a guy really holding his arms up with tons of fruits and vegetables. It looks like maybe he's in a store or something. I don't know. I didn't really see the whole, study it, but it was so funny because, yeah, there's so much stuff to eat, like you're just basically finding things that taste good and seasoning them up the way that you would do the meat. It sounds hard at first. It's just, once you get into it, it's so exciting. Like I said last night, me and Dawn love getting into our food and being creative and finding new things to eat, and like a lot of the times eating the same thing. As long as it's what we're putting in, every vegetable has something that it benefits for our body. It's like fuel, like you said. It's not just food. So
Absolutely. And the big myth about needing protein and where that comes from, people are disconnected from the idea of the largest mammals on this planet are vegetarian. So they're getting their protein from the plants.
It's a
Gorillas,
middleman. It's a middleman. It's crazy. It's crazy.
elephants and rhinoceros and
It's like cut
hippos and
out
all of
the
these huge
middleman.
animals. Yeah.
Cut out the middleman. It's like, why are you going to eat an animal to get plant-based nutrition? Because that's all the animal's eating. He's
That's
eating
all
the
they're
plants. So why are you going through him? Cut him out. Animal agriculture. And you made a very good point. And shout out to Buddha 1000. She's down in the chat, Jen. Welcome.
Hey, Buddha, thanks for coming in.
You made a very good point, Stephanie, about the fact that doctors are not educated on nutrition at all. They are mainly trained to prescribe medication. That's what they do. And they're not, taught that, listen, you can also help people heal through through the food that they're eating. So yeah, that was an extremely good point. And I think that they need to maybe change some of the medical curriculum to include nutrition in medical school.
Well, they're afraid of losing a part of the economic model that's inherent in us being uneducated, because a healthy populace isn't going to be filling their waiting rooms for surgeries. And a healthy populace isn't going to be keeping the pharmaceutical companies, off the charts with their drugs. And what's really kind of built in, and it's really sad that we have such an economic model at the forefront of everything we do in this country. But I even have a personal distrust when I go to a doctor. If
I do
prescribe a drug,
I don't
and
go
knowing
to
that
doctors.
he can have stock in the pharmaceuticals
I don't
that he
go.
prescribes. It's crazy.
I don't go. I am a cancer survivor, and I do not go to doctors. Once that was done, I have not looked back since.
Well,
and
I don't
I'm
either.
20 years clean. 20 years. So you tell me. You know what I mean? I haven't had any follow-ups, none of that, because I refuse to be in the system where they're going to run around in your head and try to convince you that you need all these treatments and that you're sick. It's like, no, I need whole foods and water and fasting. That's basically what I need. You know what I mean?
As I said to you last night, there's viable research and proof that dairy and meat turn on cancer cells.
Yeah.
The author of the book, The China Study, T. Colin Campbell, put out a movie called Forks Over Knives, which is really kind of like a Cliff Notes version of that book. And he goes through the research of showing that a certain amount of meat made the cancer cells a certain amount. You add a little more meat, they split even more. You eliminate the meat, it goes down. I mean, he showed the science, and it's not like we're just making this up. And here you are, you're proof. 20 years ago.
Yep.
You're acting like you never had it. Who would think that you were a sickly woman at any point? You seem like, your vitality is just, it's off the charts. I can tell. So
it's so true. It's like what we don't realize is we can also, if things are happening with us, that's what I think why I'm so passionate about it, because there are people out here who are suffering, they're on medication, they're in chronic pain, And I've read so many stories, and not type 2 diabetes, cancer, everything you could think of, asthma. I've had stories and testimonials from people who have went on a plant-based diet and they've reversed it and they're able to come off medications. And it's like, you know, that's why I think it's important that we put this information out there, and then also help people understand how they can make it work in their lives, and how what we do and how we make it work, you know, because it's one thing, like we were saying, to say, yes, this is what you should do. And if you don't have a doctor or a guideline, you know, but there's so many good resources out there now, so many good plant-based recipes, and get started in 30 days, you know.
Voodoo's got a good question down there.
Okay.
What else
I
can
can't
give
see
her
the
protein?
chat up here. Can you guys see it?
If you look on your
Messages
phone,
for audience displayed here. Let me see.
if you look on your phone, it's under
Oh,
your
I know.
YouTube.
I had it on private chat. That probably is what's wrong. I don't know why it won't show me the other one.
She said, unfortunately,
No, I don't see it.
because I take warfarin, I have to watch my vitamin K intake. I eat a lot of fish, though. My question is, what else can I eat for protein?
So the fish, there may have been a time when fish could have been healthy for us, but fish are a repository of what the oceans are. And right now they are so full of heavy mercury and metals, and fish is not a health food at all. Plus they're filled with cholesterol. So fish isn't healthy whatsoever. Warfarin is a blood thinner. So blood thinners are necessary because it's clogged. If you unclog yourself, okay, so here's what happens. You go to the doctor, they take your blood pressure, and what they're really checking isn't your heart. What they're checking is how clogged you are, because however clogged you are is how hard your heart has to pump. So that's what they're measuring, is that your arteries are closed up a little bit when you have high blood pressure. So it's taking that much more for your heart to pump and to get it through all of your organs, right? So it registers as it's pumping hard. You have high blood pressure. And the first thing they do is they give you medicine to thin your blood. But the problem of why it's clogged to begin with is you're still doing it. You're still adding what's clogging it, which is the cholesterol. So it's not breaking up that cholesterol. It's just dilating. She needs to eliminate at the source what's causing the clogging that's causing the high blood pressure. The blood pressure, the clogging is due to dairy and meat. So she's eating fish. So there's the cholesterol from there. If there's any dairy going on, dairy is worse than meat, because it's the high fat content of that animal's secretion to grow that cow. That baby cow is growing 600 pounds in a year. That fat content is so super strong. That's why it's the worst thing that we could be doing as humans is drinking that milk from another animal on top of it. On top of it, they have 4 stomachs. So most people have got all of this digestive problems, from constipation to diarrhea, acne. Everything is from ingesting that dairy, and it's trying to make its way out. That's why it creates all kinds of acne. It's just dairy is terrible. It creates congestion. It creates asthma. Kids have got all kinds of issues. That it's like the number one reason why kids have got their ears having to have surgeries as children. Because they're so clogged. It's a reaction to the dairy, and the parents don't realize it's a reaction from the dairy. There's even a book out called Whitewash. I think I sent it to you, Dawn, a small little picture of it, or if I didn't, I will send it to you. But I know that they address in that book how dairy is affecting children, and pediatricians aren't aware of it, and they're always touting dairy for their kids, and it's the worst thing that we could be doing. But the woman that just wrote, the fish is not the source of protein. No, that needs to be eliminated. It doesn't matter if it's coming from farmed fish, from the oceans. It's just not a health food. And all she needs to do is just type in, Is fish a health food? Dr. Greger will come up. There's a host of doctors that come up and will say the truth. It's not a health food.
What are some of the best vegetables to get protein from?
So they found that there is more protein in a pound of broccoli than there is in a pound of meat.
There you go,
Pound
Buddha.
for pound. So the cruciferous vegetables are the ones that our body respond to the most. So
Spinach,
broccoli, spinach, kales, the leafy vegetables. Then you've
mustard
got
greens, I think are good.
even cauliflower being white is in that category, and the same
How
with
do you deal with the vitamin K issue though? Because spinach and all of that has vitamin K, right?
Okay, so all of the vitamins are found in plants. If you
Yeah.
eat the rainbow, then you don't need to be reductionist in your mind and worry about, am I getting enough C or am I getting enough K? You will get everything you need without having to worry about it, as long as you're eating a rainbow of fruit every day, a rainbow of veggies every day, and supplement yourself with some of the nuts and seeds, such as walnuts, cashews. Seeds is sesame seeds and pumpkin seeds and pumpkin seeds.
See, here's the thing. So she's taking warfarin, so she's got to watch her vitamin K intake because of the warfarin. And I think what Stephanie's trying to tell you, if you go plant-based, you won't eventually need the warfarin, which takes care of the vitamin K issue. Then you can have K at that
I
point.
think what a lot of people don't realize too, and what, I didn't realize this because I didn't know for 42 years. I didn't do this till 2019. But what we don't realize is protein is not something that is isolated to meat, because the animals are getting, like you said, that protein through the meat. And you can also eat beans, and they have a lot of, a high protein content in them. But there are, it's kind of like a misconception. I'm going to send you, Buddha, a thing from that I just watched the other day. I think I shared it too on the Vegan Knowledge page. It was called The Chemistry of Protein. And it's really good, like the way Dr. Milton Mills explains protein. And in that video, he said, how many of you, it was a lecture, and he was like in a room full of people. This is, I guess, pre-COVID now, before everything was done online. I love seeing those sometimes. And he said, how many of you have been to the hospital in the last 10, 15 years to visit someone? And everybody, chimed in and raised their hand. Okay, well, it was probably for a surgery or, something like that, or to, help them in their recovery, or, they were sick in some way. And everybody was like, yeah, yeah. And he's like, how many people here have ever went to the doctor or the hospital to see somebody with protein deficiency? And
Yeah,
everybody
exactly.
kind of laughed in the audience. And I'm like, that made a lot of sense, because the minute that you think about going plant-based, all of us in our head, I did the same thing too, because I was a big meat eater, and a lot of, you're told that you need protein. And I was like, wait, I hope I'm going to get enough protein. Like, because from the minute we are born, we are starting, we hear that already going on when we're kids. You got to have meat, you got to have dairy. And we get kind of like, I feel like it's brainwashed in us. So when we hear something else, you have to literally take everything you learned, unlearn it, and then do this research yourself, and then make it click and make it make sense. Because I'm not a doctor. Like you said, we're not medical doctors, but the medical doctors might not even know this information, because their job is, when you have a problem, they're there to give you medication. It's kind of like the same way with like mental health sometimes. You go and you get a certain drug that's going to help you feel better, but it's not really getting to the root cause of what the problem is. And I think as a nation, it's like that, if people are on medications that also have harmful side effects, or like you said, that you can't have a certain food that's a food put on the earth, in nature to eat to make you healthier. But I've heard a lot of people say, well, because I have this ailment, I can't eat a lot of green vegetables, or like you said. And it's just like, when
and it's not the ailment, it's the drug that they're on is why they can't eat it, not the ailment itself.
That's like what she said, the warfarin.
And what's terrible is it's known that these drugs every single drug that you take has always got a side effect. I had a friend, a really good friend that was a pharmacist, and she said every single drug has a side effect, right? So the minute you take anything, you're going to have something. And the more strong the drug, the longer you're on it, whatever that it's for, it becomes a vicious cycle, unfortunately. And yes, if you put your body back into balance, there is no reason for those drugs. And I'm not saying that our medical establishment isn't necessary. If you break a bone, you have an emergency, you're in a car accident,
Right.
we're top notch. They know how to figure out how to surgically remove organs easily, fix bones, and they're great for that. And thank God they're there for that. But the internal part, they don't really have the information that we need to be successfully thriving as we're aging. And it does behoove us, unfortunately, to seek it out ourselves. And, you know, thankfully, you're inspired to look for it. I'm inspired to look for it and share it freely. I'm not looking for any, I don't need any atta girls. I just put it out there, and I just figure whoever needs to read it, that they're drawn to it, and that they'll get the information that they need. You know,
Buddha is saying down in the comments that she drinks almond milk and she eats fruits and nuts, but she's got a bad habit with cheese. And that's where cheese was tough. Well, I was never a big cheese eater, like in my earlier years, but you know, I find that pizza, I was telling you last night, Stephanie, that pizza was my arch nemesis. And I would not, that was the very last thing that I couldn't get rid of, because I loved milk, but I never was a big cheese eater. I didn't like it on sandwiches and stuff like that, but I did like a grilled cheese sandwich, and I love pizza.
And have you found a substitute that you like?
Jen made a pizza from scratch the other week, and I loved it. I was like, wow, honey, that is really good. Daya makes but that wasn't as good as Jen's pizza.
There you go.
There's some replacement pizzas, and there's a lot of good cheeses, but you gotta, like, don't have one and then just say, oh, that's no good. If you really want some comfort food and you want some cheese, Chow is a good one. The by Field Roast that has good cheese. They have blocks of cheese. I mean, there are some, like we had cream cheese from Violife that literally tasted just like regular cream cheese.
Tasted like Philadelphia.
Vegan mayo that tastes just like, mayo. And there's plenty of, like she said, Daya makes shreds if you want like taco, the Mexican style. They make even Parmesan cheese. Violife, I think I had, that was, you can put right on your Italian food. So if you're looking for that, and then Stephanie probably is more of a cook than I am, so she probably even knows how to make it out of cashews, which I think
I have, and it came out delicious, and it's so easy to make. One of the first books that came out was by Miyoko, who now has that whole brand of cheeses out there, Miyoko's. But she published a book called Artisan Cheese that I got, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. I'd have to go and look and see how old it is. But she talks about the process of it being just literally taking a fermenting liquid, adding it to the nuts, and letting it sit on the counter to ferment, pretty much the same as dairy is fermented to make cheese. So she was the first one to take it from the process of, I'm going to take this nut base and I'm just going to add some lemon juice or vinegar, and I'm going to try to make it tangy, and I'm going to try to make it something. And it never really worked out back then. And then she came along and said, let's ferment it exactly how we ferment dairy, and voila, it does work. So in her book, I tried making cream cheese a few times, and it came out delicious. And she even teaches you how to make the fermentation liquid, which is literally just taking some wheat berries or any kind of a grain, soaking it for 24 hours, and it bubbles up a little bit, and you use that liquid and you mix it with the cashews, and you blend it in the blender, and then you let that sit, and all of that will start bubbling. It's kind of the same thing like making yogurt, and keeping it at a certain temperature. So the whole process now from back then that she discovered it to now, all those cheeses you two mentioned are along those same process of
Mhm.
fermenting, and they're coming out with better and better techniques. And there's
You
some
know I got to be
artisan
trying
cheeses
some of
now that are
these.
just you would never imagine they weren't made from the dairy. So it's really a process. When you say about trying stuff, when you go and look at the grocery store, just look at all of the cheeses that are offered dairy wise. Why
Mhm.
would someone think that they should only try one non-dairy, decide that it tastes yucky or not, and then
Yeah.
judge all the rest? But yet there's 25 different cheeses that, oh, if
Right.
you don't
Like
like that,
regular
you try
cheese,
that.
I
And if
didn't
you
like
don't like
certain
that, try
kinds,
that.
Generic cheese I never liked. I had to have Kraft. So if I had only tried that one generic type cheese,
There
most
you
stuff I
go.
can take the generic kind. It tastes just the same. But that was one thing. It was like it tasted kind of like plastic. And you'll find there's some vegan cheese that, like ranch. I literally looked for years to find a good vegan ranch, and Hidden Valley can make one if you can't make it yourself, which I'm this year. Like my New Year's resolution was to, when I wanted to eat something, is to try to get more whole foods in, even when I wanted comfort foods. So
Right.
I'm definitely interested in all those recipes, whatever you can send us or post, because, I'm trying to, that I just wanted to like be whole food. I like being mostly raw, but sometimes you want something different. Like you were saying, you don't want to like not give into that, because that could, demotivate you, especially early on in your journey. You need to know that you can have, a cheese if you want it, or you can
Sure.
have a pizza. And I think that helps people early on, especially if they're not motivated by like, okay, I'm going completely whole food, plant based. And you might evolve into that, like a lot of people did. I kind of went backwards and went all raw vegan for a while, and that it made me feel so good. Like that, definitely the more raw foods I eat, I get
Mm,
a lot of energy out of that. But
I
it's
bet.
Wow.
it's a
I bet.
change, because like you said, Buddha, you're not used to, like, you're just hearing this information and you're probably like, okay, what the heck am I going to eat? And that's what a lot of people
She
think.
just said her doctor is saying that she suspects that she's not eating enough dairy. What? And Buddha's like, no, I don't. I drink almond milk, she
When
says. You
you
know what I
start
mean?
thinking about what
Wow.
dairy really is, and that it's meant for a baby cow, like you were saying, it becomes like a liquid secretion from a
It's
cow. Like think of,
mucus.
That's all
it
it is.
really
It's
is.
mucus. It
Mhm.
adds mucus to our bodies because our bodies see it as a foreign substance, not as food. It doesn't
Yeah.
resonate in our bodies. It comes from another source. And if you think about it, intuitively, we know we're supposed to be weaned because we're totally the idea of a human walking over to a pregnant woman or a woman that just gave birth and starting to nuzzle and feed from her breast totally appalls us because they're an adult. We
Yeah.
only think of it as that's for an infant. But
Mhm.
yet, as adults, we're drinking the milk that's meant for another baby. And we want to drink this as adults. And it's kind of bizarre. What makes us think we need it?
Yeah.
It's
And
It
it's
really
crazy.
so
is when you
full.
start
I
to
mean, when
really
you
like
think
in
about the
depth think about
estrogen,
it.
everything that is so concentrated in that dairy for that baby to grow to 600 pounds in a year. And we're drinking that full fat. In fact, there's people that think we should be taking it right, just go right over to that udder, unpasteurized, and just drink straight from that cow.
Right.
Holy cow, are you?
Well,
Holy cow,
not
no pun
only that,
intended.
well,
Holy
Are you
cow,
kidding
all
me?
love
right?
the fun. Holy cow.
I
I
mean,
mean,
just think of
think
the
about
growth
it.
hormones that are in there naturally.
Hmm.
Before the farmer is even adding those growth hormones, the growth hormones are inside of that animal to grow that cow 600 pounds in a year. And then we're calling it a skinny health food. And women are eating yogurt, Greek yogurt, 4 times the dairy it takes to make from yogurt to Greek yogurt. And women are eating that and scoffing it up, and they're having it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they're being told to drink those glasses of milk, and it's
It's been
wreaking
proven
havoc on
over and
them.
over that
Yeah.
those additional hormones in our body,
Oh,
because we're only supposed to have
terrible.
a certain amount, are causing breast cancer and
It's
ovarian
causing
cancer.
dairy is the number one culprit of reproductive cancers in humans. So it causes prostate cancer in men, breast and uterus cancer in women, and breast cancer in men as well. So it's implicated as number one for the reproductive cancers, and it's the big secret, and it's unfortunate. And
And then
I
just
wanted to go back to one more thing about trying some new stuff. I like to recommend to people what I did through the years is every time I would go shopping, I would take $5 and try something new, knowing
yeah,
I might take one bite and toss it. But how else
Hmm.
are you going to find out what you like
Right.
unless you try everything? So when somebody writes, "What's the best vegan cheese?" It's like, some people like Swiss cheese, some people like American cheese. How can I tell you what you're going to like based
mhm,
on my taste buds when we are
Right.
right.
so different? So really, it's a matter of just buy something. You might be pleasantly surprised. If you might not like it, well, at least you tried it and you can have an opinion about it, and you're not going to buy it again. You would do the same thing with anything else if you were still a meat eater and a
Yeah.
cheese eater. When you look at all of the variety, people try all kinds of things and don't think twice about it. But for some reason, tell them to go plant-based and they want to narrow everything down. Like there's
Hmm.
only 3 choices of everything. And that's so not true.
That's how we
There's
discovered a lot of the stuff that we eat, whether it's, some of the processed plant-based stuff or recipes like the chickpea tuna salad, or avocado deviled eggs,
Mhm.
that I made with the mushrooms and the avocado. It's like you don't know unless you experiment with these things and give
Exactly.
them a try,
And
so
and
you're
and
right.
if somebody is new, my first recommendation when anybody says, "Oh, my husband doesn't like my food and I've decided to go plant-based and blah blah blah," and how do I convince him? I say, take his exact menu right now and just substitute it.
Hmm.
Don't
That's what
jump
Roe did.
into giving
That's
him
what Roe.
salad. Give him hamburgers and hot dogs and sausage and eggs and everything he currently eats. And then little by little phase out those processed things with more natural things.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're already doing yourself a favor by just substituting. Even though it's all processed and it's still got fat and it's not the best, it's still better than what you're doing. So
Yeah.
that's the first baby step. If you want to take baby steps and you want to get yourself used to it and you got to get your mind into it, not everyone is like us that we just,
Yeah.
jump in, or like you, Jen, that you
They
went
need that
from
crutch a
that
little bit.
extreme to that extreme and now you're
Right.
finding your way to the middle. It's
Well,
we
let me
can
ask
give
you a
them
question.
what.
Avocado oil. What do you think about that? Because when
So
I'll fry up cabbage and I'll put a little bit of, not a whole lot, but avocado oil.
So there's the whole range of Dr. Campbell, Dr. Greger. They will say zero oil. They will
Okay.
say use water, use broth, use something else. I'm
Jen uses
kind of like
water.
you. I do use a little bit of oil when I fry my
Just a
onions a
little,
little
like a
bit,
quarter,
just a
or
little
50-cent
bit.
piece,
I
you
don't think
know?
it's so bad for us. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe it would be something that I would be even better off if I eliminated completely, but I don't
Yeah,
find that it's an issue with the
it's
little bit
that
that
big a
I do
deal.
give myself. And I'm sure you're regulating yourself with it too.
Yeah,
So
and it's like, they say olive oil is bad and peanut oil and all that, but avocado, if you're gonna do oil, it's probably one of the healthiest. So that's why I got that. And I don't notice any difference in the taste of my food or anything.
I don't
So
notice it either. And you know what? Even with that, then you go on Dr. Greger one time did a whole thing of oils, and I think he did say that olive oil is a good oil. So I don't know. I mean, I think the camp is
yeah,
try to stay away from all the oils. And if you're gonna do an oil, a plant-based oil is a little bit better, like the avocado, or maybe I don't know. I intermittent everything. I've used safflower oil, sunflower, avocado, olive. I use so little of it, I can't taste the difference.
yeah,
Can you?
no,
I don't know.
not at all.
But you know what? But when you look at the fat content, and the clogging content of it, that's what keeps me keeping it at a minimum, because knowing that that little teaspoon is 100 calories, it's like, yeah, do I really want to add that? I mean, what I have learned to eliminate is using canned coconut oil, coconut milk, because when you look at the information on that, that's 800 calories, fat calories, when you turn the can over. Yeah, exactly. So I have learned how to make curry without using that milk. If you want to, make curry, and
She
you could
loves
use
curry.
maybe coconut milk that's already the refrigerated kind, or you could use almond milk and then throw some coconut shreds in there, right? But to eliminate that full fat of 800 calories in my meal that I'm splitting only with me and Mark, it's like, yeah, do we really need 800 calories just for that flavor of coconut?
Got the whole day's calories almost in one.
And I'm not into coconut, but I know that it's part of the recipe for curry because I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos.
So what I did, there was a time when I was making my yogurt from scratch using soybeans, and that leftover mash from the soybeans, they call it okara. And I would freeze the okara and I would defrost it and blend it with some milk. And I use that as a base because it's thick. It's just soybean mash, right? So there's ways of adding that bulky texture to the sauces that we want to make without using those fatty oils or the high fat concentrated coconut. So that's where I've tried to experiment and find ways of adding more nutrition without adding things that you really don't want to add to your body. So coconut oil, I remember it was touted as really, really bad for years. And then all of a sudden, everybody said it was fine, but now it's now it's going in the reverse again. And they're saying coconut oil isn't that good for us. So I don't know. Why risk any of it? Why risk the opinions? Just eliminate it and just
I think that's
away.
in Beyond too. I think that's in the Beyond. I love Beyond burgers, but I think that's also, it's got a high coconut oil content in that to get that greasy effect.
It does, because I fry it on I use my my George Foreman when I cook those burgers. And there's a lot of grease that's left over compared to other
I do it on the charcoal grill.
Really try to make it just look like a burger. They put the beet juice, I think, in there to like make the for their meat eating
bloody
friends
effect
that want that.
And the Impossible Burger, it's the same. I mean, I think that they're both really tasty, and for the occasional that we eat it, if we eat it once every couple of months, that's a lot. But I'm thrilled that they came out with them for people who do want that craving. They want the same substitute. It's perfect. Perfect.
They're saving an animal. They're saving some parts of their health. They're not getting the cholesterol, because I think I read this before, and you can make note or let me know if I'm right. Animal is the only one that animal protein or animal food is the only thing that can give you cholesterol.
Yes, cholesterol is a product of all animals. So when you are consuming, so we naturally make it. That's the problem, because we already naturally make it. It is necessary for our well-being, but we already make the exact amount that we need. So when you're eating animals and their secretions and eggs, you are adding a tremendous amount of cholesterol into your body, and that's what they call it plaque when it's inside your arteries. And what's really dangerous, if you think about it, is it's a layering, just like I described the pipe that you're putting the oil in, right? So it's just this coating, and it keeps layering and layering and layering and making it a thinner, smaller entrance. So now, if you are really filled with a lot of that cholesterol and you're clogged everywhere, and you are an active person and you're running and you're pumping your heart hard, it's easy for a little flake of cholesterol somewhere in your system to fall. And now it's going to block your artery. And that's what causes a heart attack or a stroke. It's because just a little piece of cholesterol falls into the artery and actually blocks what little opening you still have, blocking the flow of blood.
That's
So
so
do you get that
Wow.
picture in your mind that that's what's really happening? So if it happens near your brain, you get a stroke. Happens near your heart, you get a heart attack. Men, men have no clue that they're that if they have impotence in their 40s, that's a canary in the coal mine. Because if you're the arteries down
That's
there
a
are a
police
lot
song.
they're a lot thinner and
yeah.
smaller. So that's the first place that you're going to show clogging, is where you have an issue getting hard and maintaining hard. But that should be, oh my God, I'm eating stuff that's clogging me, instead of saying, oh, I'm just going to go get a pill. So they're geared to thinking that a pill is going to solve their problem, but they don't realize that that's their body screaming, hey, you got a problem. You're clogged. So the next step
Wow.
is, if you're on that pill, next step is you're headed for a heart attack, because you're already showing a propensity that you're clogged. You need a pill, you're excited, and nothing's happening. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And doctors don't realize it either, because they're uneducated, so they're quick to just give out that pill. They're probably all on the pill too.
Yeah. And
Right.
and you know what else? When you were talking about the clogged drains, I was thinking too, and we can talk on this, but we were talking before, the same kind of what do you call it? Same kind of effect as those clogging, like your arteries. When you consume meat and dairy, you also have, I think it's muscle and liver cells. I might have the cells wrong, but that's where the sugars, when you eat something,
Mm,
they naturally go into there. So when you eat, let's say an apple or a cookie or whatever your entire life, even when you're young, these sugars go into your blood, and they then go directly into those to those little holes, I guess we'll call them, the
Did
where the
everybody's
cells
sound
are.
just go down?
uh-uh.
I just plugged in my headset. I realized that I was talking into the computer, so I didn't know if.
What, you're not, are you hearing me?
Yeah, I hear you, but all of a sudden the
Yes.
sound of the
I heard
computer just
something happen. Yeah, I did hear it too. It kind of just went like almost like in a, made me feel like I was in a wind tunnel for a
like a
second.
muted.
Hmm,
Yeah, it was weird. Maybe it's because I connected my headset a minute ago.
could be.
I'm kind of hearing like a heartbeat or something. Was that you tapping something, Dawn?
No,
No,
that's
Okay.
weird.
Oh, great. Now I'm just paranoid. Maybe
poltergeist
it's
is
my
in our
arteries.
conversation.
Right? What's going on? It's the
Yeah,
government.
because
I'm
she,
just kidding.
Stephanie's low too. I'm like, okay, now
Huh,
I'm
Maybe
freaking
you
myself
turning
out.
it down a little bit.
I don't know, I'm just sitting here, I haven't touched anything, so I'm not, no.
Did you hit the my headset has a little thing on the, like, that you can turn it up or down on the headset thing.
That's weird.
I've done that
Oh well.
before and rested it on my arm. I mean, rested my arm on my headset mic and turned it all the way down, that one live stream we were doing, and I'm like, "Can anybody hear me?" And everybody's like, "Yeah, we can hear you fine." I couldn't hear a thing going on. But it was like, the whole thing about type 2 diabetes was, when you're, younger and you eat sugar, these sugars go into your blood and then they naturally go where they're supposed to. But over time, as you eat a diet of high fat, like meat and dairy products, these things go into those cells and clog them up. That's why most people, you're not born with type 2 diabetes. You get it when you either gain weight or later on in life over time of eating that meat-based diet. Like, there's a good, in What the Health, Dr. Bernard explains it, and then the guys from Mastering Diabetes explained it like a, so, for example, if your sink is clogged up and you pour fruit juice in there, all of a sudden you're looking at it and saying, "Oh, I guess the fruit juice was the problem." But
Mm,
in reality, it's because your drain is clogged. So it's not that you can't
exactly.
eat or drink fruit juice, or you can't eat an apple or even a cookie once in a while. It's what you're eating is your blood sugar is spiking because the sugar can't now go where it's supposed to, because you've clogged up those cells that where it's
Exactly.
supposed to go. So now you eat the sugar, and and all of a sudden it makes it look like, oh wait, it's sugar that's doing it. So now we got to give you a medication
to lower the sugar in your blood, and you have to cut out sugar. But they never tell you to cut out the meat and dairy, which is causing the clogged drains. And what we know is in little as 2 weeks, I've talked to people who have started to come off their sugar medication
Wow.
because it is you're clearing out the drain just simply by not eating the meat and dairy anymore and putting more vegetables and fruits. You're kind of clearing yourself out. It's like we were saying, this isn't opinion stuff. This is the same as your car. Our bodies are like the exact same mirror of herbivore, and the digestive tract, the pH levels, everything. Like that's really what our bodies are meant to eat. If you compare it to other meat eating animals, we're not the same. That's why our body, like we were talking about mucus, like your body is like, oh, this is a foreign substance. This is for a baby cow. This isn't for me. So our body, when it gets something foreign in it, it creates mucus. So that,
Exactly.
it's so many things that I feel like, and some of the more common things that people think just happen to them. That's why I'm glad that we are at least here, talking with you. How long have you been plant-based now? For quite some time, right?
So, whole food, plant based, nutrient dense, I would call myself since 2007.
Okay. See,
So,
that's an
it's
expert here. I've been
16
doing this
years.
4 years and I already feel like I know a lot, but you've done all the like you've seen it when things didn't even taste that good, the replacement products
Yeah,
probably.
you got that
The
right.
woman's making cheese out of
Right,
nuts.
we're
She's an
not there
expert.
yet, but but we wanna hear your wisdom, so
I do want to, you made a good point, and people fail to realize this also. Just our way, the digestive tract in the human, 28 feet of intestines compared to a true carnivore, which are cats. Cats have only 8 feet of intestines. They are designed to eat meat that's live, not cooked. They eat it, it goes through their system immediately. They process all that protein out of it and then they eliminate it. They only have 8 feet. Now we're taking that same thing that's not meant for us, and we have 28 feet of intestine that's all going through. And because we're not really designed to digest it like that cat is designed to digest it and grind it and get it through in 8 feet, it ends up getting stuck
Mhm.
throughout your colon. And that's what causes polyps. And that's what causes cancer in the colon.
Constipation.
And that's why colon cancer is so off the charts, because it's just not being eliminated and it sits in our gut
That's what I
for
had.
years. These little pockets of rotted flesh that you consumed another animal's flesh, and it's not broken down and it's just in there. And then the coating, the dairy, that fat, that oily coating, when you talked about the diabetes, if everyone could just think, Dr. Bernard, when he described it, he made it sound like every little tiny cell, think of all the cells next to each other, and every single wall, have everyone having an actual barrier put on in their wall. So instead of it being this loose membrane that everything is just flowing in and out as it should, there's now this block, and it's caused from that oil, that plaque. And because it is, nothing can get seeped in there. And so all that sugar, when you said that you can ingest sugar through carbs or any other means that you're ingesting that sugar, that it would normally just be absorbed into the cells, all it's encountering is walls of blockage. It's not,
Yeah,
there's nothing to absorb. And so it stays in the bloodstream and it keeps hitting the pancreas because it's in the bloodstream and it has nowhere to go. And it hits the pancreas until it finally is
making it
kaput and
overwork.
says, I am broken. And now you've got type 2
I
diabetes.
can't
And
provide
it's,
all this insulin because you're putting,
yeah,
it's backing up. I'm having, and the insulin, if I'm not mistaken, is what breaks down this little bit of sugar that should remain in your blood. But when you've got those drains clogged, your poor pancreas is like, okay, I can't. Like,
yeah,
you're not giving. I guess that's what we forget when we're thinking about, oh, but I don't, I don't know what I would eat, or I, that's how it was with me. Once I started reading this, there's no cheat days where I'm going to eat a regular burger, for many reasons, because of the whole animal rights that I've gotten into. But for that particular purpose, I'm not, especially at my age now, I'm feeling like I'm getting a little older, and I did eat meat for 42 years. I'm not putting cholesterol in my body. I want it to feel clean. So when I cheat on something, yeah, I might eat a Beyond Burger when I want some processed food or some processed cheese, because I know that's still made of primarily plants.
Yes,
I'm not going to ever drink dairy, because I don't want to give myself more of a risk of having cancer, even if you have genes that run in your family. It, to me, it's just, you want to make sure you can still have fun, you can still make creative meals, but you're just making sure it's always plants or fruit, nuts, seeds, and it's just, to me, it's become the simplest diet, because it's not like you have to worry about eating a little bit of, broccoli and being starving when you go to bed. You can eat a lot. You can eat
sure.
beans and grains and rice, and you can use mushrooms. I use that a lot to make, like, as a meat substitute, and that's so filling. It gives you that gives you protein as well. It's like, when you really get into this, you start to look at your body, like you said, like a car, because just like the digestive tract, not only that, but a lot of people are dealing with acid reflux and heartburn, because our body, just like you were talking about the cat and the human, our body's designed to grind fruits and get the nutrients out of them, so they have time to go through that long digestive system. We can't break down meat. That's why we have so rows and rows of Tums and what is that stuff? I can always say Zantac, or is that, well, allergies is another thing. I've got rid of allergies that I had since a kid because of dairy, eliminating dairy. Like, it's just, it's like you got to be ready to make the change yourself, but all we can do is just put that information out there for people, because it's hidden, kind of.
And the other way of encouraging people is just tell them, what have you got to lose to try it for 30 days? If you don't
Hmm.
feel better, go back to what you were doing. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, it really is that simple when you give out advice to someone that's like, oh, I don't know. And I don't, it's like, okay, so try having some vegetables, try having some fruit, try adding some nuts, try that.
Try for a
See
month.
how you feel. I mean, didn't you feel a difference immediately, Jen, when you
Immediately,
made
like,
that change?
because I was only going to do it for 3 days. I was like, I'm going to eat a salad for 3 days. And then I said, you know what? I actually feel pretty good about
It's
this. And
turned into
I'm
3 years.
full. I'm eating some
Wow.
nuts when I, like, got, where I wasn't quite full. I would eat nuts and then, like, some fruit. And I was like, I feel really good. And then I went, "Oh, I'll try it a week." And then I'm like, I'll try it 2 weeks. And by 2 weeks, I was feeling so much energy. I'm like, I'm
Wow.
going to try a month. And then in that month, that's what I always say, that's when it was turning into May, because I started this in April 5th of 2019. So I'm coming up on 4 years now next month. And I'm like, wait, this year I haven't realized that my eyes haven't been watery and itchy. And I usually get this big
Look at
cold
that.
coming into May. And I was like, okay, this got to be a fluke. Now I got to keep going.
Wow.
I got to keep doing it through the summer. And I used to have, like, really like back pain from an
Yeah.
injury I had as a teenager, and it would, like, squeeze and, like, constrict my muscles, so I had to, like, stretch out on the bike and do all kinds of stuff if I sat too long. And all of a sudden, 30 days, it's like, how you get used to something happening. All of a sudden I'm starting to do this in, like, 60 days, like, wait, I don't think I feel that back pain anymore. So, like,
Wow.
immediately with that, I started looking up I healed such and such. I would just type in I healed and then plant-based diet, or I reversed and plant-based diet. And I would find all these stories, and that's how I found all those documentaries and things that had, like, just had
crazy stories of things that a plant-based diet could do. And I'm like, this is how we're supposed to eat. I started looking at the nutrition behind it, like the different digestive tracts and the pH levels, and just hearing Dr. Mills and Bernard and just watching What the Health, then that really solidified it, you know? Then I start seeing these terrible videos of the slaughterhouses, seeing cows with
Yeah,
mastitis and hearing there's pus in our milk from these poor cows being over milked. And it clicked. I was like, wait, okay, yeah, the cow, I have a pet, I have a dog, but then why do I treat that cow differently? Why do I think it's
exactly.
okay for him to have fear and get slaughtered and eat him? And then it just kind of like everything started to then that whole section of wait, the baby cow doesn't get the milk. What happens to them? Because we're eating
Exactly.
it just then it
It goes
evolves into
on.
that. It's like you start out for one reason, hey, I just want to lower my blood pressure, and the next thing you know, you're in this whole, like, thing of I'm like, "I'm one of those crazy vegans," that I used to call them.
It's like a layering of an onion. And I'll take it to the next level. If we are energy at our essence, and everything is energy that's alive.
That's right.
So the animals are experiencing fear and pain as their last energetic thoughts that are emanating through, and that fear and pain is lodged in their muscles. And so now you consume their flesh, their liquid, and their eggs, and their energy of fear and pain is embedded in that. And now it's added into your energy field. And what
That's
are you adding to your
amazing.
energy field? Fear and pain, because that's what they just were experiencing.
Mhm.
So I feel that this whole planet is wrapped in the energy field of fear and pain of 80 billion animals currently being tortured at the hands of human. And so their energy is wrapping this planet. And
And
then
being fed
we're
the food
consuming
that
that fear and pain. And then we're wondering why we're violent as humans, why
Mhm.
we
Yeah,
are frustrated and angry and upset. And it's because we're energy, and
we're
we're
absorbing that
we're,
energy. Yeah,
we're
that frequency
absorbing
is
that
getting
energy
in.
that we're creating because we're lacking empathy, sympathy, compassion for these animals. We look at them as if it's like they're my mug, and
Mhm.
we treat them as if they are rocks, instead of what we learned in seventh grade is they all possess a central nervous system just like us. We
Mhm.
feel pain, they feel pain. They are aware. They know what's happening.
The
They
same
know
as
Yeah,
that
your pet
pigs are
is
smarter
aware.
than dogs and that they're as smart as a toddler. They know as much as a 4-year-old. So
Mhm.
a 4-year-old would be able to look at another 4-year-old being beaten and know that, wow, that's going to hurt if I'm next. So
Yeah.
you have to consider these animals being the mentality of a 4-year-old, completely understand when they listen and they see what's going on with their brethren.
Yeah.
And then we're eating that. We're
And we're
eating that.
wondering
It's a
and
terrible thing that we're so unconscious about. So I don't get into all of that on that plant-based site because too many people are just wrapped into themselves and they just want to get out of their own pain. And I understand that. And that's where it starts. First, you have to get out of your own pain before you can care about somebody else's pain.
Mhm.
You
right.
have to be okay. So it's almost like they have to undo their layering in order
Yeah.
to actually see. Like you said, Jen, it started with eating a salad, and then it led you to actually questioning, well, where is that milk coming from? And
Yeah.
then, oh, if she's not a milk machine, she wasn't born as just something that makes milk. She's actually a mother making milk for her baby. So then if I'm going to drink her milk, what happens to the baby? Where's that baby going? Where's
Veal.
that baby getting the milk from? And,
Mhm.
and then you go down that rabbit hole, and before you know it, now you're like me, a whole food, plant-based, nutrient dense vegan.
Right. You get more names added
I
on,
have
right?
all those titles with
Mhm.
vegan.
Mhm.
Whereas there are some vegans, just like plant-based people. Some plant-based people don't care about the animals. Some vegans, they only care about the animals.
Yeah.
They stay as junk food people just to prove the point of, I'm going to do this just for the animals. And that's okay. They're
Yeah.
entitled to their poor nutrition if they want, as long as they're not consuming the animals, and, they'll get around to when they decide they want to feel better. But
You
at
made
least
a good
they've
point. I
left
feel
behind what's causing the problems, even if they're not necessarily helping their own health to improve. They're not still harming themselves like they were. Helps the
Right.
animals, so every little step. Motives mean everything, but I'll take even the tiniest little motives in the right direction.
you just
And
saying
There
you'll
you
think
go.
about it is great for
you
me.
know,
Like, you're getting there or you tried something. I'm
Absolutely.
happy to hear that. And like I think when you talk to a lot of different people who've went plant-based or vegan and stopped eating animal products, to your point, I do feel a lot calmer, like
I'm gonna go
emotionally,
out and come back
spiritually.
in
Okay.
to
okay.
try to see what's going on with my headset.
I feel like spiritually I do feel a lot more like at one with everything and
Mm,
calm, almost like after meditation, almost just in a normal basis. So I think you're right, there is something to be said with that compassion coming with not eating meat, and the energy is like through the roof too, you know what I mean? Like I feel like more energy than I ever had even as a kid. So
definitely. Well, I can tell you that, I'm going to be 62, and eating this way has regulated my body to the point where I still have a body like I'm in my teens
mhm,
without trying.
That fixed it.
I'm not saying that it's not like I don't exercise. You have to exercise and what have you,
yeah,
but it's not like I'm on a diet. I don't
yeah.
think about, oh, are my clothes going to fit me? Or, it's just your body ends up naturally just
It
finding
becomes
its
at its
own
optimal
balance.
weight and stays there when you
Yeah,
eat
it
right.
finds its balance and it maintains that balance as long as you just keep feeding it nutrients that are really nutrients and not just because it tasted good.
Mhm,
So even if you want to have a diversity in your menu and you get to this point where you want to introduce desserts and what have you, there are so many people out there that are creating recipes that are so healthy, that have figured out how to make black bean brownies,
mhm,
how to make brownies out of chickpeas, or cake out of beans. I mean, there's so many different people that are making these recipes, and I've joined so many Facebook groups. There's one Facebook group that just figured out how to use the leftover cooking liquid from chickpeas. They call it aquafaba. They discovered it back in 2015 that if you take this cooking liquid, you can literally whip it up into like whipped cream and make meringue, and that
wow,
it acts like eggs. And so since
What?
2015 till now, they have figured out how to use aquafaba in substituting in baking and cooking. So if you make it yourself and you do the right consistency, it comes out like gel when you just refrigerate it. And I make my chickpeas all the time, and I save that liquid and I make soups with it for thickening. I make my sauces with it.
wow.
Um, it's like this
Wow.
miraculous liquid that they had no idea existed. And now they found that if you put 3 tablespoons of this stuff in your baking, it's the equivalent of an egg. 2 tablespoons is the equivalent of egg white. So there's a whole group of people that if you find that Facebook page, they will give you down to the science. Then you've
Mhm,
got a whole Facebook page that there's
Wow.
dedicated people that are making plant-based ice cream. And I mean, I thought that I could follow that group, but they got the charts with the numbers, and they've got it down with science and math, and the particulars of every single ingredient and what it has to be frozen at. And it's like, holy cow, they're all about the science of just making plant-based ice cream. So my point
Wow.
is whatever rabbit hole you want to go down, there
mhm.
are groups out there that'll take you by the hand and suck you in.
Yeah, I'm like a member of
Wow.
so many groups, like, and the groups that we have, I'm on probably mostly. There's like 3 groups that I tend to always go to, but there's one, I think, Vegan Cheese Exchange or something.
Yeah,
Have you
that
seen that
one.
one? And then,
Holy
like,
cow.
if you want to get into the health benefits of it, you've
Hmm.
got a bunch like that. And then, like, you're reversing disease on a healthy plant-based diet. And then we've got vegan knowledge, which we just do a variety of things. Like, sometimes it's a recipe, sometimes it's an article of, or a lecture, or a
Love it.
cool looking video saying, like, hey, here's this lady making, this recipe. Or it might be, hey, this is a doctor, from the PR,
Hmm.
Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, telling you why you can reverse diabetes. Or this is a story about such and such who did. Or it might just be a fun, meme or something. But it's a place that you can get input, get advice, and with a bunch of like-minded people that are on the same journey as you, and you're getting reinforced by saying, hey, people will sometimes comment and say, yeah, I lost weight, when I went on a vegan diet. Like, for me, when you were talking about weight loss, every diet I'd ever been on, I don't know if you ladies experienced this too, but I'd go on it for a little while. Like, I tried the low carb in my 20s, and then I'd give up on it and I'd go back the way I normally ate. So I'd go like up and down. If you look at my Facebook memories, I'm like bigger at some points, then I'd be like, oh, I must have been on a diet then. But this one, I lost 55 pounds and have literally kept it off, with the exception of fluctuating maybe by 5, 10 pounds over the time when I added cooked foods in. I stay at 125, and I
Without
don't,
trying.
I eat a lot. I eat a lot. You can ask Dawn, I eat a lot of carbs, a lot of,
Yeah.
a
I'm a
big
witness.
salad.
I
And so
believe it.
it's like people don't realize it's not carbs that's causing you to gain the weight. It's really the meat, it's the
It's
dairy,
the
it's
animals.
the animals that are creating us to be, to be sick, to have these different conditions, it's just, it's
And
so
then
much,
and then they
sense.
discovered that back in the 60s that if they give antibiotics to the animals, that it fattens the animals. So they made that a part of farming all over this country, is to inject these animals with antibiotics to keep them healthier in very unhealthy conditions. So they're living in conditions that aren't natural to them. So
Hmm.
the increased amount of sickness is so elevated that that's one of the reasons they give the antibiotics. And then they discovered that the antibiotics fatten them up. So that's another reason that they give it. Well, somehow we've disconnected from the fact that we're eating their flesh that's got this antibiotics, and we're drinking their secretions that have got these growth hormones and antibiotics in them.
Hmm.
And if you look at people, I mean, it's really awful to see that we're morphing into looking like the animals that we're actually consuming. When you
Yeah.
see how overweight and huge some people are getting, and rather than us saying that this is a very unhealthy thing for our bodies, they, I think one of the worst things was when Dove came out with that whole campaign of love your body no matter its size. And I understand the whole idea of embracing yourself and self-love. But that self-love needs to embrace the idea of wanting the best health for yourself, not
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I'm just going to go for anything I want to eat. I'm going to allow myself to get very unhealthy and I'm not going to feel ashamed, and I'm just going to buy bigger clothes. And God forbid anybody should tell me that this is unhealthy. I'm going to take it as an insult rather than, oh, maybe I should listen to what they're saying. Maybe
Right.
there's a reason why my knees hurt, because I tell you what, great example of what weight does to you. Go to the store, pick up a 25-pound bag of cat food, and walk around the store with that for 20 minutes and
Right.
see how you feel. And if you say your legs hurt, understand that that's only 25 extra pounds you put on yourself, and that you could easily put that on. And now that's who you think you are, is someone that has knee problems, instead of
Right.
recognizing that you just took 25-pound bag of dog food or cat food and you put it on your body. And now your poor legs have got to walk around with that, right? So we're not supposed to be big.
Plus
And it's not
food.
about pretty or whether we find it sexy or not. We're just not designed, our organs and our frame as humans, we're not supposed to be big like that. And so when you find out how to eat better and you eat better and then your body responds to it, I mean, it's like this natural progression that
Yeah.
just it naturally will happen. But
Yeah.
people are so far removed from that education or that experience that they can't believe it can be that easy. And so
Yeah.
you'll also get people looking at you and being like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I can't, or that's just your experience. That's not my experience. And
Yeah, or I can, and I think that part of that I had, I heard this theory before, like that someone said, well, have you ever seen an like overweight animal in the wild because they know what they're supposed to eat instinctively. A deer knows he's supposed to eat, the grass or the leaves or whatever a deer eats, and he eats that. He doesn't think, oh, I'm going to go out and eat,
eat till I
fast food
burst.
until he knows he eats a lot. Like, you ever watch your pets eat? They eat, and now we overfeed them because we leave a lot of food there. So you'll see like little fat cats and stuff. But like honestly,
That's because we feed them.
and we need to look at what we're putting in our body as fuel and nutrients too, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you said, there's a disconnect between food. You can still have fun and eat things that taste good, but you want to put the right stuff in, and in doing that, just by mistake, you can still eat a lot. You don't have to starve yourself, but in doing the right foods and the fruits, nuts, seeds, grains, rice, beans, and everything, if you eat, you're gonna end up at your optimal weight, like you said. And
Exactly.
the other thing I was gonna say, inflammation. I think I started to say that, and then I got off on that tangent about the deer. But the inflammation in our body, also foods either increase or they decrease that, to your point.
Hmm.
So if we're putting, if you start looking up health benefits of a cucumber, health benefits of spinach, the first couple of things you're going to find, every single one of them may reduce inflammation. It has antioxidants, which keeps you from getting sick, which is overall better for your immune system. It's going to help you, fight anything off that's coming on, may reduce the risk of cancer, may reduce the risk of high blood pressure, might level blood sugar. Like everything these vegetables have, it's like, why wouldn't you want to overstock your body with that good
Exactly.
stuff?
Right.
Exactly. And when you mentioned before about genetics, they found that we don't inherit diseases, we inherit our family menu that causes those diseases.
Yeah.
So, and I'm proof. I will just say that the males in my family, my father and my brothers, all experienced high blood pressure and heart problems. And my father and my one brother have got diabetes, and I don't have any issues because I started at a very young age eliminating the diet that they continued eating throughout their lives. That
Which
I
that's
started as a child.
wow.
My brother, who's only a year and a half older than me, continued into his adulthood. And then has experienced all kinds of health issues, which he has reversed, adopting a whole food plant based diet. And that's for his story to tell.
Hmm.
But I
And
will tell
hopefully
you
he'll
that
be able to
I'm the
come on with
same
us
age.
soon. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm right there with him, and I've never experienced any of these problems. If anything, I have low blood pressure to the point where it was too low sometimes. No sugar problems, nothing. So the difference was I went down one road, he went down the other, and it was all about the menu.
You
That's
know,
it.
you can be a different biological age than chronological age too, based on
Absolutely.
based on how, if you're working out, if you're eating right. It's like you said, you feel like you still have the body of a teen. You literally biologically may very well be 19, 20 years old.
Huh.
Yeah.
But and it's scientifically proven that if you carry yourself that way and treat your body that way, it will respond and literally be that age.
Huh.
Yeah. I
Well,
freaked
think
out.
about it. They tell people that you're reading on a, you're in 5th grade, but you're reading at a 10th grade level. Maybe we're like, I'm 46, but maybe my body is still like 19. But I am wearing like the same size I wore in high school, which went way out the window when I hit my
I still do the
20s.
same things I did in my 20s, when I
Yeah, there
work
you
out and
go.
everything. And it's like, hey, I still feel like the 20-year-old me. Sometimes I freak out. I look in the mirror and I'm like, I still look like my 30-year-old self. It's like, it's funny, but I'm like,
She's
this
always
is
looked young.
amazing. I mean, I'm going to be 55 years old in July and
You
people are,
are? Oh my
yeah.
goodness, I would never imagine. You
Yeah, people
no,
are
you
like, there's no
no.
way you're 55. And I'm
She
like,
looks
yeah,
so good.
I
You
just,
It's like,
do.
look, I was gonna tell people at
thank you
one
guys.
point, I was gonna tell people that we were like 75 just to see if we could prove that a plant-based diet makes us look good. But the thing is that I think is so important and why Stephanie's so passionate about it, and I think me and Dawn are, because we see things happening to people and
Yeah,
we want them to know that they have the ultimate control of their health. And there's so many resources, and I will personally help if you need it to help you get from point A to point B. If you anytime reach out to my email message, because if you can't find the answer on the page or if there's misinformation, let us know. If you need to know, hey, how would I make this in a vegan way?
yeah,
I'm open to help, because sometimes it might be that you've heard all this and you've heard what Stephanie said and all this great information on how you can prevent and reverse disease, but it's like, okay, now I don't know how, because now when tomorrow I wake up and it's a new day and I start my regular life in my regular environment with my family and we go to the store, we're going to get the same stuff. But
Mm,
we were talking about this. It's just forming a new habit.
exactly.
that's it.
You already have a habit. You already eat the same 5 things probably each week, or you go out and you eat the same thing every time you go to certain
Sure.
restaurants. You're just changing that. And then now, and I'm sure Stephanie agrees, when you go to the store or when you shop online, however you do it, like me and Dawn, we know it's so much easier, because it's like you don't have to worry about all these different things. You know the same places you normally would have went in your meat eating days. You
Mhm.
go to
Right.
the vegetables, you buy this and this, you get all your stuff and you're done, and you now have only that stuff in the house. So you're not, you know,
Exactly.
but you have to have a why. And we did a series, or a live like a couple of weeks ago, on 5 tips for going
What's your
plant-based.
why?
You have to have it resonate with you, because in order to make that commitment and to feel motivated, do some research, because I feel like for me it has had me stick to it, because I feel so passionate about it, and I feel like there's nothing like that could change my mind.
Hmm.
And even if you're not like that in the beginning, find some reason why you might be doing it, whether it's health, whether it's the environment, anything. When you were talking about the animal, all the food that we feed them, it could literally, if we think about world hunger, the food that we feed the animals, like you said, could feed, what
The
is it, like
planet
half?
10 times over.
Yeah.
Think about it. We're
Animal
feeding 80
agriculture.
billion animals. There's only 8 billion humans. If we stopped breeding and feeding the animals, we would have enough food to feed to 8 billion people 10 times over.
Hello, we would put a dent in global warming because animal agriculture is part of the reason for global warming.
Greenhouse gas. It's the
They
Yeah.
have
highest. It's
been,
the number one cause.
well, they have been clear cutting the rainforests for a couple of
Right.
decades and setting them on the fires that you always hear about in Brazil. Those are intentionally being set. So when they go out of control, it's not like, oh my God, there was a lightning strike. They are intentionally burning the rainforest, and the rainforest is the lungs of this planet. So we
Yes.
are literally killing ourselves by eliminating the place that breathes for everybody. It's
Yeah.
just, it's kind of crazy.
Ludicrous.
it's
It
it's
just
really
seems like
Ludicrous.
it
crazy.
seems like I don't understand
It's
what has happened.
masochistic.
It's crazy.
It's
But okay,
masochistic.
so on a plus note, I'm going to leave you with, I wanted to point out one other thing when I was saying about Facebook groups. When you
Yes.
really get into um I mean, the things to look forward to as a vegan, there are groups out there that are dedicated. There's a couple of groups that are professional chefs sharing recipes, vegan recipes, where if you join, they say you're allowed to post a recipe, you're allowed to share a recipe as long as you always give credit. Then there's other groups where it's just chefs and you're not allowed to share anything, but you can see what they're doing. I mean, there are so many people that are taking plant-based and elevating it to there's also a couple of groups I belong to that do fancy baking, fancy wedding cakes and all kinds of ways of making confections. And it's like, really, if you want to go down that road at any point, I just do it just to be informed. I like looking at the pictures. I'm not making it for myself,
Right.
but I
Right.
love seeing the passion of everyone that is posting and
Yeah.
knowing that they are spreading their energy and passion wherever they are. And I love all the restaurants that are popping up regularly in
Hmm.
cities everywhere, or restaurants that they've taken their menu and they've decided to go 100% plant-based. And there they are saying that they didn't lose customers, they've actually gained customers. So
Hmm.
listening and watching those trends get me very excited, because then that means that
Yes.
the masses are jumping on this and it's no
Yeah.
longer just the three of us talking about it here.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
Right.
it's 3 million are talking about it, so
We're in
it's,
the middle of an evolution, or a change,
yeah, we really
evolution
are.
here. I do believe that. I don't know
It's
how long it will
global.
take, but
It
you can
is.
see the beginning. If you look back in history of other things that have changed. I mean, I say this every week. There was a time when doctors were advertising cigarettes, and or they
Exactly.
had them smoking on these commercials, and like there was a time when we didn't know certain things, and we didn't always do things right, and it takes you're going to get pushback because people don't like change. A lot of this stuff is religion, cultural, how we grew up.
Tradition.
My grandmother's recipe, it had meat. I'm
Tradition.
putting meat in it, and no matter what you say, it's going to be hard. But eventually, when it becomes, like you said, mainstream, and I feel like we are seeing the beginning of this happening with all the different, even all the fast food chains have a plant-based option just about now,
I
and
know, I
Right.
love it.
we
And
have like restaurant.
there are sites that are dedicated to even to invite people to write a recipe, give them a recipe so that they can veganize it.
Yeah.
Take any
Mm.
recipe and how to turn it into the exact same recipe without the meat, without the dairy, without the eggs.
Like I
And
said, if you
so
Yeah.
do
I,
stuffed peppers, you just got to replace the meat. Your pepper is already a vegetable. Most stuff like spaghetti is already, a lot of it is plant based if you get the right, normal. Most pasta I find, is, you got to look at the labels. That's another
yes,
thing. Pay attention to the labels, because some stuff they'll sneak some dairy in there, won't they, ladies?
Yeah.
you
It's
Definitely.
got
Things
that
that you
right.
don't think that dairy would be in that they're in. You know what I mean?
Yes. And they unfortunately also come up with different names to trick us. So dairy can be called casein, it can be called whey. It's,
Right.
you have to know how
What's
they're
what?
referring to different things. Unfortunately, it's just like they've now taken the label of GMO and now it's called bioengineered. So if you are concerned about GMOs, you got to know that bioengineer is now the new word instead of GMO, because they know that that causes controversy and negativity, because we've all been screaming about GMOs being bad for so long. They just changed the word and now we're all ignorant. And
Yeah.
especially
so it behooves us to
Learn.
constantly
research. Do your
research and stay on
research.
top of it. And it's all about how, my question is, how good do you want to feel, is how dedicated you'll be to this.
Yep.
Hmm. And
My
it'll
Good
goal
be,
is
point.
to feel good all the time, every day.
absolutely, and
Whatever that, however that takes, I will do that. That's my dedicated purpose. And that's so that I can be available to others. If I didn't feel good, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys right now. I
Yeah.
would have thought of a million reasons not to do this. I would
yeah.
be like, I don't feel good. I'm on the couch. I got a headache. I got a stomach ache. I'm not in the mood. But I felt great. So it was like, I have no excuse but to let's get
Right.
on, let's talk. And that
Yeah.
Thank
really is
you.
the bottom line every day, right? What gets us out of bed? If
Yeah.
you feel like crap getting out of bed, you don't have any energy for anything. But when you feel great getting up, you got energy for everything.
Yep.
That's
Give it a month.
Love
Give
it.
it a
Love it.
month
Love
and
it.
let
Love
us
it.
help
Love
you.
it.
all
Love
right.
it.
That's yay. That's all I can say.
That's it in a
Um,
nutshell, right?
I'm just so thankful that we have this conversation, and I really am so thankful for you bringing your knowledge and many years of
Stephanie, I
experience.
love hearing you talk. I could hear you talk all night.
Me
Oh,
too.
thank
Serious.
you. And thank
I
you for
really
having
do.
me. And I think you girls are just, the message that you're spreading, I can feel the lovely energy that emanates from the both of you. Your motives are pure, and you both,
Thank
you
you.
walk the talk, and it's obvious. I mean, you both glow. And,
Thank you.
I think that
You
that's
glow as
another
well.
thing.
It
We
might be
all
cover
are
girl on me.
examples. When we go out in the world, the idea of to saying things is one thing, but to show everyone that yes, you can be like me. You don't have to age, and your body doesn't have to crumble. You don't
Mhm.
have to
You don't
spend your
have to go through
retirement
that.
years in doctor's offices and spending all your money on
Yeah.
drugs that
Right.
make you feel like crap.
When you said that about skin and glowing, that's another thing that people don't realize. Skin conditions like eczema and things you're dealing with, that's mainly from my experience because of dairy. That I've spoken to so many people when they get off of that, but yet they're given this commercial. It inundates me of this, was it Sky Rizzy or some stuff that's on TV, like all these pharmaceutical commercials telling you this is how you can get rid of things, but it's just managing it. So it's like getting in the, a lot of, and it might not work. Like you said, it might not work for you. You may not like it, but what have you got to lose, with so much proof out there that, the medicines, can are not necessary, like you said, if you get to the root cause. And that's why, we're passionate about it, and I know you're passionate about it. We're trying to help people just by putting things out there. When you find something good that works for you and you feel good, like it's like you want to let people know, and anything we can do, to help. And I'm just really thankful that you came on and took the time to talk with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel special that somebody actually thinks that what I have to say is important enough to
Oh,
to
definitely.
say it.
Oh,
So
definitely.
thank you.
I mean,
Definitely.
just
And you're
from
welcome
looking
back
at
anytime.
the posting on your page and all the knowledgeable information, even in the comments, you've answered some questions that people even on my group have had, and you have I'm like, we have got to get that knowledge on here,
Awesome.
and so come any Monday. I'm like,
Thank
Dawn
you.
said she could hear you every day, so she's starting Meatless Monday every day now. You have to come, and I'm just kidding.
Thank you, ladies. And I love that you're doing this. And yes, I will join you in the future. And I'm looking forward to tuning into your show when you have
Awesome.
other guests, so I can keep learning as well. And it's all good.
Thank you so much. And thank
Thank
you
you.
everybody for coming.
Awesome.
Buddha, thank you for all your comments and great questions. And
Thanks,
Janetta
Buddha.
and
Thank
I'll
everybody
see you
you.
else.
tomorrow.
Something's wrong with my computer right now. I have Dell coming tomorrow, so my comments were not showing for some reason, and it's blinking. So I'm sorry if I missed any of your comments.
That's
I'll go
okay.
back
It
and
was
check.
it was this Buddha.
Okay. All right. Well,
I read them all.
thank you.
Awesome.
I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream with a poem that we did.
Okay.
I did the video for Jen. She wrote a beautiful poem, and I'm gonna go ahead. I played it at the beginning, but I'm gonna go ahead and play it again. And everybody have a wonderful night.
Go
Thank you
check
so much,
out
Thank
Stephanie.
Reversing
you. Have
Disease
a
with a
good
Plant-Based
night.
Diet. Thank you.
You too.
Where's the poem?
Oh, here we go. Found it.
If we can become a plant-based nation, we could get off all our medication. We want to keep doing things like we were, donating to organizations claiming to fight for a cure. But the cure is already in front of our eyes, and it's time for us to wake up and realize. We may not want to believe we have control. It's easier for most of us to metaphorically live in a hole. So many stories of how being plant-based has reversed disease. It's funny that we can't stop eating meat with ease. We want to continue to look for the answer, yet people have reversed even cancer. I think finally as a nation, it's time to give people the truthful information. Your hard-earned money is what you pay to take your medicine day after day. Sadly, there's a lot of money being made in people staying sick. This has to finally make something click. We have to have this revelation that a cure means not selling medication. There's so many myths and misconceptions, but it's eye-opening once you make the connections. That meat and dairy are causing insulin resistance, it's not sugar and carbs causing diabetes, for instance. Scientifically, our bodies are not set up like carnivores. We model those who eat plants. If you can heal, why not give it a chance? You follow your car's owner's manual for what gas it takes, yet for our bodies without care, we feed it steaks. That's like giving an unleaded car diesel to drink. Our bodies will reject it, don't you think? I'm not here to tell you what to do, but to be a voice, that when it comes to your health, you have the choice. With just a few adjustments to your diet, I can help if you just want to try it. I found testimonials that people have reversed every ailment and disease by simply eliminating meat, eggs, milk, and cheese. There's a tasty substitute for all the things you already eat. You can get all your nutrients without eating meat. Save the animals, the environment, and yourself just by making a few different selections off the grocery store shelf. It's never too late. I've seen it work at all age ranges. It's my passion, and I can't wait to hear about your positive health changes. It's time for the world to wake up and heal, and you can start with your very next meal.
I love that.
If we can become a plant-based nation, we could get off all our medication.